Welcome to the next episode of the BRIO in the Box podcast. Very special episode here today. We have two special guests from the Saskatoon Police Service. We have the organizers of the First Responder Fitness Festival, Chris Harris and Angela McDade. Thanks for being here today, you guys.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
Now, I'm going to hand it over to you to give me a little intro and a little background on yourselves. Why don't we start? We'll go ladies first. Let's go Ange first.
Oh, okay. I guess in terms of the the police service, I have been around there now for just over 9 years. I got hired in 2014 and had moved to Saskatoon from the East Coast with my husband, who also is employed with SPS. I've spent the majority of my career in patrol on the front lines, and the last couple of years, I've moved into the gang unit. And Chris and I crossed paths during our time in patrol together.
All right. And Chris?
I am a 17-year member. I was hired back in 2006 after a brief career prior to that in broadcasting. I spend most of my time on the street. Right now, I am the sergeant of the bike unit, our community response unit, where I've been for 2 years. Yeah, essentially my nuts and bolts of my career.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about each of your interests in fitness and how this helped to align you guys in terms of your mission with the fitness festival. Chris, why don't you go first? What's your background or what are you into in terms of fitness and activities?
Always kind of been just a bit of a sporty guy. Played hockey growing up, played ball in the summer, just kind of like a typical Saskatchewan kid. Then took up golf later on. And then in about 2014, I was shown a video of Tough Mudder. And from there, I was like, I need to do that. And basically, I haven't looked back since then. I've competed in international events. I've competed in national events. Just really got bit by the OCR bug, obstacle course racing bug, and just thought it was just an amazing way to challenge yourself, push yourself. And so, in addition to regular training for just life and the sports I continue to play, I'm just a dedicated OCR racer.
Oh, that's awesome. How about you, Ange?
So I just essentially kind of grew up as an outdoor kid. Grew up in the country. We would come home from school and we're sent out on our bikes or kind of into the woods to go build camps or whatever. Like we were always just running around. And then in middle school is when I got into more organized sports, which for me was ice hockey, which I absolutely loved and kept playing essentially until I was done with grade school. And then after that, I slowly fell into the CrossFit space for the last several years. And then specified a little more into weightlifting, and that's been my niche for the last few years.
Yeah. So combined, you guys bring an interesting background, right? On the more endurance side and on more of the strength sports side. CrossFit kind of lives in the middle of both of those things. So, given both of your interests in fitness and athletics, what was the problem that you noticed within the police service?
Essentially, like for me, I guess I will say it felt very much like you finished police college and there was such a focus on exercise and all this stuff, but you were never really given any tools to continue it, especially jumping into shift work in a stressful job that being in police college, none of us had been exposed to really before. So, like for me personally, when I came back from police college within the first couple years, I gained a significant amount of weight from not being used to shift work, from not knowing how to fuel my body or eat for shift work, and then not really knowing how to train or exercise around a lack of sleep and all that kind of stuff. So, not to say that like the fitness festival necessarily would have fixed any of those things, but I think it creates more of a group mentality around it. And it also is something that a lot of people want to be involved in and want to stay fit and train for. So you can maybe align some of your training with wanting to do that and not essentially embarrass yourself. But I do think there's a huge gap in that part of our industry is getting booted out of police college with nothing. And I mean, while we're down there, we're eating cafeteria food from the U of R, and you're not really sent home with any tools. We're not even, I don't think, through our benefits covered for dietitians or any kind of nutritional help. So that would be one of the issues that I saw fairly quickly after coming back from police college and being catapulted into this crazy career.
Hmm. Chris, how about you? What are some of the struggles you've had or seen within your colleagues in your community?
I think the big thing was when same type of idea. When I came back from police college, when we were down there, you saw it was kind of an envy thing. The Regina Police Service, they had a wellness coordinator. This is back,
Mhm.
I'm talking 2006. They had a wellness coordinator who did noontime classes for the members who wanted to come. It was always energetic and the camaraderie was great. And then you came back here and we had nothing. We were still in our old station. We had a tiny little box gym. We didn't really have any type of resources. And so you spent 18 weeks at police college being told like doing fitness every day and doing these classes. And then you come back and it's just like over. And not to throw anybody but under the bus, but there's people that I went to police college with that I know have not been in a gym since police college. And whether it's just, it's so easy to fall into those trappings where it's just like, I don't have time, or I'm out of shape and I don't want to put in the effort to get back in shape, or it's just not a priority for me, or family life and all those things. So I think before we had moved to the new station, I just thought, and I'd done an issue paper for it, just like, why do we not have a wellness coordinator? And then from there, just all the benefits that come with it, nutrition, like Anne said, just having somebody that you can go to for nutrition, for a workout plan, for all those things, just because it's such a huge component of mental health and just feeling good and being able to be safe at your job and be competent at it. And
Mhm.
all those things, like, it just was such a vital component that just was so overlooked, and I just couldn't, for the life of me, understand why.
Mhm. So is it fair to say you attempted to address the problem from the top down, right? You said you wrote some issue papers and went at it from an organizational perspective. And then it feels to me like the fitness festival was more of a grassroots effort. Is that fair to say? Like, let's do something from within the community and grow it from the ground up. Make it more of a cultural thing of being fit as part of being part of the police service.
Yeah, I think they went hand in hand. I mean, when we first had the idea, it started from Spartan Games YouTube series, and it was a competition thing, and they pit all these athletes from all these different disciplines, CrossFit, ultra marathoners, Olympic athletes, NFL guys, OCR people, and they put them in this 3-day competition and just to see who was the fittest, very much like the CrossFit world, like fittest on earth kind of thing.
Yep.
And Ange and I just watched it and thought, how cool would it be if we could do this within our own service? And then from there, I think we just started reeling in every other type of organization and how can this benefit and who else can this benefit and other organizations, and it just snowballed from there. Whereas it just started as an idea that we thought it would be super cool to do because we were both into fitness and other people were, but nobody really did it as a group. It was kind of everybody just kind of did their own thing. Some people did CrossFit, some people did just traditional bench press, military press stuff, and some people just played sports. And I think it just served as an umbrella to bring all these people under it and say, hey, look, we all have the common interest in being fit, and then from there, we just sent offshoots off in so many different directions, and it's taken on a life of its own, really.
Mhm. So 2022 was the first year that the festival was organized, correct? Last year? Last October? So it sounds like the goal was to give people like some accountability, maybe something to shoot for, something to bring people together, like the camaraderie of training and maybe a little friendly competition to push each other outside of their comfort zone. And something, what did Ange say? To not embarrass yourself, keep the
Yeah, like
professional.
I mean, I think it's true. I think at the end of the day, anyone that signed up to do this competition made sure they were in the gym, made sure they were doing things they wouldn't normally do. Like we had people who were absolutely terrified for a trail run because we wouldn't tell them the distance. It was just going to be a surprise. So there were people who never run, who were out running and doing things that they wouldn't normally do and making sure that they were comfortable with their fitness to not come out and I guess there's no really better word for it, to not embarrass yourself in front of your coworkers, in front of other agencies, and in front of like potentially a venue full of people from the public. So I
Yeah.
think, yeah, like embarrassment or just, like wanting to be able to do well in front of people is something that holds you accountable.
Mhm. So does that summarize the goal, or besides inspiring your coworkers to spend more time and prioritize their fitness a little more, did you guys have any other goals in trying to bring this event together?
I mean, ultimately, it took on a charitable component because we figured, well, we're doing this and it'd be a great opportunity to raise money for charity. So that was definitely, it became a goal. And then once we incorporated the other agencies, I think it would just became an interagency camaraderie thing. And so building those gaps between delivery from other agencies. I mean, we see paramedics and we see guys and gals at calls, but it's in a professional atmosphere. You're not going
Mhm.
to be like, "Hey, how's things?" Like you just don't have time for chit chat, and it's
Yeah.
usually you do your job and you're off to the next thing. So what it allowed us was to build these relationships where you now see somebody that either competed or was at the event or volunteered. They're like, "Hey, Larry, how are things?" And then you just build that personal connection rather than just be a person who's in a job, who's in a uniform and sees somebody and then goes their different way.
Yeah.
I think that was another huge goal and accomplishment that we were able to a benefit that we were able to see from the event.
Yeah, good connections.
Yeah, I think even like within our own agencies, we had inspector level to special constable level, like training together and getting to know each other, or very senior members to members who had just started who otherwise would have never met. Like it did bridge a lot of gaps in terms of relationships and knowing people outside of work on a more personable level. And I think to speak outside of policing, I think with the medics, there was a huge trickle effect. Their entire team of 20 people started doing CrossFit. And then the people who weren't competing, but were working with these people at Medivy were like, well, I want to do that. So then these other people join CrossFit. And there's a huge portion of Medivy now that are like consistently going to a gym and like working out when they haven't before. And there's just been this trickle effect, I think, of seeing it benefiting their coworkers' lives and wanting to jump on that train and be part of the group and whatever. So I think there's been a huge benefit in that way too.
Mhm. I think that's amazing and obviously way more successful than had there been a mandate that came from the top down of you have to exercise for this many minutes every week and now it's part of your job or your contract, right? That's much less motivating than exactly what you described, right? Is feeling the inspiration and maybe a little bit of social pressure from within the group and it kind of builds itself as just part of the culture from the ground up. Let's circle back to the charity aspect. Chris, you mentioned that the event took on a charitable aspect. Tell me more about what you ended up raising money for.
And so last year we decided just because it's such an important issue and something that's prevalent is not going away anytime soon would just be is just the mental health aspect in terms of first responders and PTSD awareness and just I mean you see it everywhere in society like Bell's Let's Talk and try to break down those stigmas of it's okay to not be okay and just bring it out of the shadows and make it okay and then also provide assistance and support rather than just it's all well and good to be like, we're listening, but you also want to be like,
Mhm.
we're listening and we can help, and this is how we could do it.
Yeah.
So when we partnered with Ossican, they're a charity that's a national charity that's geared at offering first responders and their families programming if it's lacking in whatever avenue they find themselves in. And then the other aspect of it is that, I mean, when people think of first responders, they automatically think of the big three or big four. You throw nurses and doctors in there. But I mean, Ossican also supports a tow truck driver who might be suffering because he went to an accident scene and had to take away vehicles where there's fatalities. And those are the things that people I don't think of when they think of first responders.
Mhm.
But in partnering with Ossican, it was just such an important, wide sweeping charity that it was a natural fit.
Yeah, that's great. How much were you able to raise to donate last year?
We just did over $25,000, which
Wow.
we were blown away by. I mean, especially for a charity that or an event that started with nothing. It was an
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah.
$0 in the bank, zero supplies, zero anything. So to be able to raise that money, it was huge for us.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you have this idea, like you said, starting with nothing, building from 0, and where did you go from there? You just started reaching out, asking people? How did you bring it from 0 to such a successful event?
I mean, it almost didn't happen multiple times. Like we almost scratched it so many times.
Right.
And I feel like our timing was bad off the hop because initially when we started talking about it, it was immediately before COVID. So
Oh,
we had started talking about it and brainstorming. And then, of course, we were hit with a pandemic and it was shelved for a couple of years. So then, when we kind of brought the idea back, we had to make 60 people believe that our idea was a good one. And we had nothing to show for it. We didn't have we couldn't really explain what it was gonna be. It was like, go watch the Spartan Games and decide if you wanna do something like that or not. But then, I mean, the Spartan Games, I'm sure, had an unlimited budget. So for us, we're like, yeah, we're gonna try to scrounge up whatever we can to get out on the field. Like, we just had no idea really what we were in for. So there was a lot of persuading that needed to happen for us to rope in as many people as we did. So there were multiple times where I know Chris and I chatted and thought it's not going to happen. And then we ended up finding Bo and Nathan with Medivy, who are avid CrossFitters as well, and brought them into the mix. And they brought, I think, a breath of fresh air to our idea that we'd been pondering for years at this point. And it kind of went from there.
that's amazing. So you rounded up the Gordie House Sports Complex to host. So you had lots of space and the big field out there. That was amazing. I know when you guys approached us and said, "Hey, we heard you have a rig. Can we borrow it?" We went, "Oh, heck yeah. What else do you need? I got a sea can full of stuff in the back," right? Like, I think, especially within the CrossFit community, there's such an overlap of the CrossFit and first responders, especially that we're like, I hope you felt the same from all the CrossFit gyms in the city that everybody was happy to help, right? It's, what do you need? Happy to support the event.
Yeah, it was, we definitely couldn't have done it without all of those local gyms that, I mean, because we have some equipment at the station, but otherwise it's not like we're a gym hosting a competition. Like, we have
Yeah.
nothing. So we really had to rally. And yeah, we had so many gyms that lent us stuff. And yeah, it was awesome.
So 60 competitors, you said was the number you were aiming for? And how many from each of the emergency services did you have?
So we did
Go ahead, Chris.
teams of 20. So we did 10 men, 10 women from each service. So that was a challenge in itself. And Fire does not have a lot of female members. So
True.
just finding 10 from them was a battle. Like Anne said, there was a lot of aggressive cajoling, a lot of back rubbing and telling people that it's going to be okay. We're not gonna do anything that you can't do. Like,
Yeah.
we knew who we had. And so it was just a lot of positive reinforcement. You'll be fine. We're not going to throw anything at you. We're not looking to embarrass anybody. We're looking to have fun and to compete. And so, yeah, getting people to buy in on a concept was probably 75% of the battle for that first year.
And then how many volunteers did it take to pull it off?
We had just over 30, I think. That was probably just for our competition. I mean, with our whole kids festival area, there's another probably dozen. So upwards of 50 volunteers.
Yeah, that's amazing, hey? Okay, so tell me more about what else is included in the weekend. So we have teams from each of the 3 big services, men and women. You mentioned there's a kids portion.
Yeah. So I guess essentially, um, we knew the competition was going to be awesome based on what we had planned, but that only attracts a certain audience. There's only so many people in Saskatoon who want to come watch people work out. So we knew we needed to expand and kind of make it more of a festival, which I guess is why our name has festival in it. So that included like getting our sponsors involved. Anyone who helped us significantly was welcome to come out and set up a booth with whatever services they had. So Born Primitive came out with like their clothing. So there could be shopping for people in Supplement World and like things of that nature. And then one thing that we really wanted was to kind of, I guess when this whole idea spun up, it was a time during kind of emergency services where things weren't great. Like the medics and firefighters had just finished with the pandemic, which was a really tough time for them. And then on the policing side of things, we had just come out of the defund police movement. So like we were in a time where like we really needed to feel support from our community. And I think part of that was getting kids involved and families involved in wanting to meet first responders in a different way. So getting the kids involved to tour a fire truck or tour a police car or do some little medical exams on a dummy, little things like that where they're interacting with people in uniform in a positive way. And then on the side, they can get their face painted and see their mom or dad compete and things like that. So we wanted it to be more of like a community feel and that there was something for everyone and not just fitness geeks who want to see some people run around.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. That's a good way to think outside the box instead of just within our own bubble of fitness geeks that love watching people. I can't imagine you wouldn't wanna watch people work out. That sounds
Yeah.
like yeah, that's awesome. And what was the response from, like, the higher ups in the organization? How did they respond to all of your efforts that went in to make this happen?
I don't know that anyone knew what was actually happening until it happened.
What was the response
Like,
after it happened?
don't get me wrong, we did have support in terms of, like, we needed X amount of people to be given the day off so that they could compete, and we needed bike cops to be out on the trail for the trail run. We had resources that were given to us, but I legitimately don't think anyone, including ourselves, really knew what was gonna happen that weekend or what it was gonna look like. So,
Hopefully afterwards, I hope you receive some accolades for all of your time and effort and charitable fundraising.
yes, we definitely did.
Yeah, that's good. So, what did you learn from first year of hosting? There's no one ever nails it the first time. What were some of the struggles or things you'd like to plans to change or grow or do better in the future?
Oh no, we nailed it the first time.
Did you? Amazing.
Perfect. What did we learn? We learned that managing a lot of people and a lot of moving parts is a very complicated animal. And you have to have a lot of plates spinning at one time. And it's very tricky to keep those plates all in motion.
Mhm.
But those things, and we were learning everything for the first time. So I think as we progress, we've knocked tasks off that were seemed insurmountable last year, that this year they're already in place.
Yeah.
So it allowed us to kind of do new things that seemed insurmountable because those other things were taken care of. So it just allows us to kind of grow, but not get crazy growth, but just do different streams. This year we did an online store because we had other things. I don't want to say we had free time because we definitely didn't have free time, but we had other things that would have taken up time last year that were requiring less time. So we were like, well, how about this? And we needed to come up with ways to raise money. So almost like a revenue stream. And so
Mhm.
just having the store is a whole other thing. Did any of us know how to operate a store? Absolutely not.
Now you do.
Yeah, well, I still don't really. It's all Ange. So it's just little things like that. And so you learn new things every year. And so even looking ahead to next year, it's like, okay, what have we got done? And what do we need to do to go in different directions? How do we change this? How do we streamline it? Just to make our lives easier from an organization standpoint, because it's a near full-time job
Mhm.
in itself, just once you incorporate all the moving parts that we have. And so I think moving forward, it's how can we delegate to other people? Who can we bring in? And how can we streamline to make our lives easier so that the event doesn't suffer and it continues to grow?
Yeah. Build on the successes, put things in place and build on it. I've learned from being behind the scenes at the CrossFit Games that basically the whole thing is run by ex-Navy SEALs and everything runs like a military operation, basically. Like,
I
ah,
think the thing last year that we were most proud of is just that it ran on time.
yeah, that's
Um, Ange and I ran a very tight ship and we barked at people and we basically don't hold anything we say to you this weekend against us, but we need to make sure it runs on time. And we ran on time. Like that it was like a Swiss
yeah.
watch really from a time standpoint. And to have the athletes come up afterwards and be like, it ran so well, it ran smooth. There was things weren't an hour behind or we didn't start late. If it said start time, it was start time
Yeah.
and end time. And so little things like that that we were they're more happy surprises than anything,
Mhm.
but we'll take it. Well, it's a win. We'll take it.
Yeah, that's great. Precision is amazing to be able to do with that many moving parts and plates spinning, like you said. So the event is coming up this year, October 15th, that
14th.
weekend, 14th and 15th. And how many same plans this year? 60 competitors, 20, 20, 20.
Yeah.
And how much aggressive cajoling have you had to do to get people to do it or do it again this year?
Not as much as last year.
Yes, lots of returning people.
From the police standpoint, we even had to have tryouts just because we had a certain number of spots open, but not enough or but too many bodies to fill them. So that's huge. Like we went from last year having to constantly be like, "You're still in, right? You're still doing it. You're still good. You're still good." To sorry, we can't take everybody this year. So I think that's it's a good indication that we ran a good event.
Yeah, that's great that people wanna do it again. What did you do for tryouts? How did that work?
I did fight gone bad.
Ah,
And so just basically reps and from there,
and then took the top performers.
yeah.
Very cool. And so the scoring of the event works for the individuals, like individual leaderboard or just teams for the emergency services? How does the scoring work?
So it's essentially individuals earn a score, but then the individual scores are added up to the appropriate team. So there's an overall team winner at the end, but then also individual rankings as well. But essentially, the goal of the individuals is to earn points, as many points as you can for your team.
That's amazing. So how many events are you planning to run throughout the competition this year?
6 events with a kind of a special finale at the end. So I guess technically 7, but 6 competitive events, which is down 1 from last year, which we did 7. But the 7th one last year was basically took a minute, if
Oh,
that.
yeah.
So it with same amount of events, 6 from last year. Yeah, it's a full 2 full days. Like we ask a lot of the athletes, they don't. I don't think anybody complained last year. Nobody said it was too much. I think everybody loved it. I think they loved the fact that they all survived. Nobody quit. Nobody gave up. I think they loved the fact that they did it. And so we give them 2 jam-packed days again this year. And I don't expect anybody's going to complain again. I think they love the challenge. I think everybody that's there is there for all different kinds of reasons, but I think everybody is there for the reason that they want to be challenged.
Yeah, that's
And
That's
I
why they
think,
came.
yeah, personally, like one of the more rewarding things for me last year was people realizing that they're capable of more than they think they are. Like the people who were so terrified that we were going to throw stuff at them that they couldn't do or that was going to be too hard. And then there were so many personal wins and I think a lot of personal growth that happened with a lot of people that weekend, like knowing that they can run 8K or knowing that they can climb a rope or like when you're put under a little bit of pressure and you're in front of people, you will do things that you maybe normally didn't think you could or didn't want to try. So I think that was huge. And one of the things we definitely wanted to accomplish and that we both experienced through our competitive careers, if you can call them that. But yeah, I think the personal growth like within the teams was amazing to see.
Mhm. And I think there's something to be said for occasionally being exposed to something that you can't do. And, maybe you're like, "Oh, shoot, I couldn't climb the rope even when I wanted to and in front of everybody." And you're like, "Okay, did it make you mad? Great. Use that to fuel you to train harder this year so that next year when you come back, you can do those things," right? So sometimes
Yeah, it was funny. We had someone last year from our team who had never done a rope climb in his life and didn't decide to practice, even though we told people that was going to be a component. And I remember standing at the rope rig and he came around on like his third lap of the obstacle course and he literally just collapsed beside the rope and just laid on the ground. And he was so mad at himself for not practicing rope climbs. And then he texted me the other day and he's like, guess what I did at the gym? And he was so proud of himself for
yeah.
doing this crazy workout that he made himself so insanely exhausted and then had to climb the rope. So it's definitely that stuff that is a win, I think, at the end of the day.
Yeah. I think sometimes the fails are as valuable as the wins. And I think if you're not putting yourself out there to try something that you're occasionally failing at, you're not really testing or finding any limits either. So I think even if people put themselves in those situations and go, "Oh, I couldn't do it," that you either win or you learn, right? You win the day or you learn what do you need to work on and maybe let that motivate you a little bit more through the next year. How many people that started working out to get ready for last year do you think kept the habit up? Do you think it was something that helped people stick with it?
Everybody.
Everybody, that's awesome.
I'm saying
Yeah.
everybody, either everybody kept going or ramped it up because I
Yeah.
understand there's people. I know that people who struggled with pull-ups. They're like, I will not going to struggle this year with pull-ups,
Mhm.
and it's something that I've learned through my career as well, my competitive career, is that you come short all the time, and without failure, there's no success
Yeah.
because you never know what can be until you accomplish it. And so to see people that are motivated by that and incentivized to be like, I am not going to fail again because they
Mhm.
know what failure is and they want to feel the success. Well, it's
Yeah, that's
huge. It's just a huge huge boost for us that just fueled us to keep us pushing as well.
Yeah. It's nice when your efforts, like you said, it's almost a full-time job to organize something like this, but when you can see and feel the impact that that's had in other people's lives, then that's, the warm fuzzies, the good feelings you get back for seeing the impact of all your hard work, for sure. So what are some of the hints that you guys have given out? What do the athletes know that they need to get prepared for?
It's funny, like now officially being a month out, everyone's anxiety is through the roof. So the group chat is blowing up more than normal. What have we given for hints? We've told people that if they've never touched a yoke, that they should probably do that.
Mhm.
They know they'll be running again.
Yeah, they can expect to run again.
And
Unknown distance, again, like last year? You're running, but you don't know how far. Unknown
No.
distance.
yeah, unknown distance. We have given the hint that they will have to move a heavy object at some point during the run for a short distance.
Okay.
Um,
One of the things that people were concerned about were doing new things or more weight than they're accustomed to. And so a hint that we've given them is that we're not asking them to do more in terms of weight, but we may be asking them to do more with less, which is kind of cryptic, but then it kind of feeds their brain. It's a mind game. You kind of get to screw with them a little bit too. So, I mean, if somebody said that to me, okay, more with less, that means I might be doing a longer thing, but with less weight or so it's fun from an
Yeah.
organizational standpoint because as a guy who's been to obstacle course races, you don't get course maps until some of them I've been to where you don't get it till you show up. And so it's
Yep.
fun to be on the other side of it and be able to screw with people as well and be like, I'm not giving you anything. You be prepared and expect the unexpected and you'll be good to go. That's it.
Yeah. So do you think if everyone's been training for the whole year, do you get to program the workouts to a little bit more difficult level, knowing that, like you said, now the base of fitness of the competitors is maybe a little better than it was last year?
Yeah, I think we overall we're asking maybe a little bit more from them,
Mhm.
just given the fact that they have had a year to kind of get one under their belt and know what the level was expected last year. So if anybody comes in lesser, that's their own fault. Like they should know that it's going to be more, if not equal to this year. So I would hope that people would have planned accordingly, but
Yeah.
you never know.
What was your favorite event with how it played out when you had it in your mind and then you saw how it worked on the field? What was your favorite event from last year?
Tug of war, 100%.
Yeah.
what did you say?
Tug of war.
Oh yeah, me too.
It
Yeah.
was a throw in. It was a total throw in, and it was spontaneous because we just nobody knew who was going against who. There was only 3 ropes going at a time. Everybody was on the floor around in a huddle, so all the teams were there. Stands were packed. It was right after our opening ceremonies. Just the vibe was just we could not have predicted that it would go like that. It was amazing for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. So my in-laws came out to help volunteer at the event from the East Coast, and my father-in-law is a retired firefighter, and he was telling me stories about how they used to plan like tug of war tournaments and that they would fill arenas for tug of war only. And I was like, what? This makes no sense to me. I don't get it until the tug of war happened. And we were like, oh, people love this. It was pretty crazy to see. Everyone was on their feet and in it. And it was insane.
And the
Yeah.
best part of it was one on one. So I think with a 3-on-3 or a 5-on-5 tug of war, you kind of it doesn't have the same cachet as like a one-on-one. Like it's mano a mano, and especially when the other 2 ropes are done and you're the only one left, and you've got people screaming and cheering and your teammates yelling to not give up. Oh, it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. Like it was amazing.
Yeah. Great moments for sure. Which of the emergency services was the champ last year? Who won?
It was fire. Fire narrowly edged us out.
So, did the police service feel like they got a little something to make up for this year? Been training hard? Got you had tryouts this year, you said, so
I think everyone's pretty wound up to take home a W. So we'll see.
should be a good weekend. Okay, so let's rep some things. You mentioned you have an online store. What's the website? Where can people go
So
and
our website is yxcfrff.ca. We sold some merch for the better part of this year, but currently our focus is on raffle. So, and that can all be purchased on the online store. So I think there's seven different prize packages, and you can just buy whatever tickets for whatever prize pack interests you most, and all the proceeds go to the two charities we paired up with this year. So we're supporting OCCAN again this year, and then half of our proceeds will go to Kids Sport Saskatoon.
Oh, awesome. We're big supporters of Kids Sport. I love what they do. Kids Sport and specifically the local one, right? I'm gonna put this in the show notes.
Yeah,
I'm writing it down. Kids
yeah.
Sport Saskatoon. The YXE And if someone wants to come and watch the event, when, where, and how do they get tickets? What's on for the spectators?
So it's free admission for everybody. The best thing to do right now would be to follow us on Instagram or Facebook, which again is YXEFRFF. And we'll be posting schedules and event times and stuff probably within the next couple weeks here as we get closer. We'll also be posting like all the kids' activities we have lined up. I know right now we're going to have face painters, balloon guys, grip it climbing is coming out with some stuff for kids, and there's going to be tons of stuff to do. So all that will be posted to our social media in the next few weeks.
Great. And so you said Saturday, October 14th, Sunday, October 15th, and like full day of activities planned, right? The athletes have a lot of work ahead of them.
Potentially 9 to 5 both days. I think Saturday is 9 to 4:30 and Sunday is 9 to 6. So, and it's nonstop. There's no like hour break for lunch. It's go.
Go, go, go.
It's as the kids say, full send for the whole day.
And at the Gordie House Sports Complex again, yes?
Yeah, on Avenue P.
Yeah. And all the events are indoors, outdoors, a little mix of both.
Indoors except for the trail run is outdoors.
Okay. And what are the events?
I can't go.
Who are you working for?
I'm neutral. I'm the Switzerland of this thing. I'm neutral to all the services. Okay, so you guys, this is great. What is where would you like to see this thing go in the future? What would be a vision for 3 or 4 or 5 years from now?
And
Let's get this year done first. I don't know.
I'll tell you if I had a crystal ball and I could do whatever, I would love to see it become a provincial event. I would love to see each city. I would like to see Regina do it, and then maybe RCMP do their own, and then come together for a provincial one on a smaller scale, like smaller teams. So let's say we only have, because with a 2-day event, we're maxed with 60 competitors. We can't do 80. There's not enough hours in the day, and it'd be too much standing around. So if we cap it at 60 and we do 10 from police Saskatoon, 10 from fire Saskatoon, 10 from medics, and then 10 from Regina, 10 from somewhere else to get to that 60, I think that would be amazing. I mean, God, if you really want to be like sky's the limit, it could be a Western Canadian thing. It could be, but I mean, there's a lot of things that would have to happen. We would need to have new jobs. Whereas this would be our job, right? Like
Yeah.
it would be basically, that's a lot of work. And so that's big, huge pie in the sky. But I mean, hey, there's people that came last year, like Andrew mentioned, Born Primitive, who have been to competitions across the country. And they were like, you guys have something here. You have a brand, you have something. And what that is to be determined. And so I think if we can get other agencies on board and other people to help us, then who knows what could happen. But yes, let's get through this year first and go from there. But I mean, dream big. What the hell?
Yeah. Do you know of anybody in any other cities, Western Canada or otherwise doing anything similar? Or are you guys the first, the pioneers?
First.
Oh, that's amazing.
Regina reached out last year because they were interested in what we did and wanted to do something. But no, we're the first. This is the first of its kind in Canada, to the best of our knowledge. I don't know anybody that's doing, especially as well, as diverse as it is in terms of like, there's an indoor obstacle course, there's DECA workouts, there's trail runs, there's strength components. Like it's so multidiscipline that there's no way I don't think anybody is touching the things that we do in one event.
Mhm. Yeah, that's amazing. Do either of you have any experience in a like event organization before, or did you just happen to be very good at it?
No.
Just
None. We're just both, I think,
Right.
fairly anal.
that's that's what it needs, right? Is just good attention to detail.
And
For
that was a
sure.
huge that was a huge thing with us too, is that we didn't want to half-ass it, which was hard because it's like, well, we wanted to do it to the best of our ability. We didn't want to have people show up and be like, well, it's okay. Like we wanted legit obstacles. We wanted a legit trail run. We wanted strength component. We wanted to test these people. We didn't want them to come and be like, it was okay, but it was kind of like rinky dink, and neither one of us wanted to put our name or our stamp on something that was rinky dink. And I think it sh- it shows in the level of work that we put into it, and then the result that the 60 athletes walked away from it last year going, that was kick ass. We can't wait to do it again. And so that's just our personality is that we want it to be as absolutely good as it can. We're not cutting corners. We're not if it takes a little extra work to make it happen, we want to make it happen because we want it to be as great as we know it can be, or as great as we want it to be, as great as the athletes deserve it to be.
Mhm.
I think that was another rewarding thing last year was people that weren't super involved in the planning or really had no idea what they were walking into and then walked into the event and were like, "Oh my." They just weren't expecting it and didn't realize the work that actually went into it and what it actually was. So that was rewarding as well. Just I think like you said, Chris, people may have been expecting something rinky dink and then they walked in and were like, "Oh, this is like real." So that was rewarding too.
And just to piggyback off of that, it's tough for us to appreciate what they get out of it because we see it warts and all, right? We see it from concept on paper and the growing pains and all the stages. So when it happens, we're kind of like, Ange and I looked at each other numerous times over the course of the weekend and like, I think this is good. I think it's working. I think people are really enjoying it because we don't get that awe factor when we walk in and be like, holy shit, this is legit. This is you guys weren't messing around. We don't get that, but we got it from the athletes, and so that fills our cup in terms of what it can be. Seeing them appreciate what we did to do it.
Yeah, that's what makes it all worth it, right? Let's give some shout outs to your sponsors, the people that helped you pull it off from $0 in the beginning. So you
Oh my
mentioned
god!
you had Born Primitive, you mentioned Supplement World. Who else do you want to give some kudos and some thanks to for their support?
Let me just pull up my little list here so we don't.
While
I
she
will say, second year
oh,
around, it has been much easier to get help, like financially from businesses and stuff now that we have something to show for it and some publications and whatever. So this year, I mean, we're super grateful, of course, to all of the local gyms again who are donating equipment, training our teams, all of that type of stuff is huge. Outside of that, like some pretty significant financial donors have been, again, Supplement World, Wheaton GM in Saskatoon, Active Energy, Medivy, Health Services West, and then the Paramedic Association as well as the Police Association has been huge. Security Building Supplies, again, donated a lot of stuff for Chris to build some new obstacles. Saskatoon Audio Visual for obstacles. I mean, I could go on and on. There's quite a few others, but the community support is huge. We wouldn't be anywhere without that. So,
Yeah, it's great to see the community come together to support something like this.
it was overwhelming last year. We again with zero. Like I think we had over 65 contributors from like 65 different local businesses that contributed. And then I think this year, what's allowed us to do is incorporate other people might, that are small business oriented. Like we partnered with Grain Strength, which is one woman business out of Carlisle, Saskatchewan, who does
Yeah.
sandbags.
The
And
sandbags, yeah, yeah.
yeah. So we contacted her. Do you want to be a part of this? And she said, absolutely. Inner Strength, which is like a weightlifting supply, athletic gear kind of company. Again, prairie based. Do you guys want to be part of this? Absolutely. Like, and the ability for us to expand and help other businesses that are in this realm is also just an awesome byproduct of the entire event. Is just because anything that we can do to give others a leg up who have given us a leg up and allow us to do what we're doing, it's just, I don't know, it's just a great symbiotic relationship that we've been able to cultivate across the province, really, because
Yeah.
we have other businesses that are well outside Saskatoon that are being a part of this.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we're looking forward to a great event. I know it's gonna be bigger and better than it was last year, and last year was, you already told me, perfect. So,
Mm.
I appreciate your time, you guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks for all of your hard
Sorry
work.
about my internet.
We can hear you at least. Thank you. So, yxefrff.ca, follow Instagram, Facebook, same thing, yxefrff. Come and watch. You can donate. You can buy raffle tickets. Lots of ways to support the event. All right. Thanks, guys.
You.
Awesome. Thank you.